Welcome to Business and Beyond, the podcast where business leaders and big ideas meet real-world challenges. I'm Julie Wheeler, President and CEO of the BBB Serving Western Virginia. Each episode, we will bring you candid conversations, expert insights, and real-life stories to help you lead with purpose, build trust, and grow your business with confidence. Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Julie Wheeler, President and CEO of the BBB Serving Western Virginia. On this episode, we go back to the basics of marketing to learn what strategies you need to know to boost your visibility in the community. I'm joined by author and marketing expert Becky, who is known for turning complex markets into clear, revenue-generating strategy. I am thrilled to have you here with us because, as we were chatting before we got started, we may know what we're selling and we may know what we're trying to do, but we don't know how to get our word out best. And so now we have the expert here to help us out.
I'm here for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about you, your background, and, what have you been doing, how you found the niche that you're
Absolutely. I used to be on air. Broadcast journalism was my first life.
Yeah, first love.
Yeah, exactly. The first half of my my career life, and it brought me all over the country and finally here to Roanoke, Virginia. I was here for about 9 years on air before I moved off air into marketing and communication in a plethora of different verticals. And that really, all of that background really kind of streamlined and narrowed me in on becoming a fractional chief marketing officer.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, the one thing I hadn't done yet was own my own business, be an entrepreneur, and do the thing. And it was scary, but I did the thing.
Sure.
And it's working.
Well, that's fabulous because your expertise, is something that so many businesses need. So what are the true marketing basics that every business owner needs to know, needs to consider?
I think right now, especially in the world we're living in where everything is like AI is changing this and the digital atmosphere and, ecosystem and automation and all good to keep up on. But my big thing and what I wrote in my book, Brand Voice, was talking about keeping it simple, genuine, and consistent. Because at the end of the day, you just want to connect to people. And so I think the biggest thing is to remain curious and make sure you ask the right questions so that you can hear from your target audience what are their pain points. You have a solution.
Right.
You found it at your company or you got hired into your company because there is something that you have created that will help other people. So now you just have to remain curious, find out where they are, what they're talking about, and how to bridge that gap.
And be able to adjust.
Yeah.
If you're not quite on brand, you got to make sure you get
it's
there.
evolving.
Yes,
It's always evolving.
Always evolving.
Yes.
Well, so what's the difference between a marketing strategy versus just doing marketing?
Simply it is kind of that difference. A lot of times I'll come in and I'll speak with clients and they're like, we're doing social media and we have web design and, it's all these different tactics.
Yeah, sure.
And you're like, okay, so why are you doing social media? Why are you doing the thing? And they don't always know why. And nor do I expect them to. That's not what they do for a living. And so the strategist will come in and kind of take that spaghetti off the wall and build it into a cohesive path so you can move, everything is aligned and moving forward and it stands up your business. Because if you're doing the wrong tactics, there is a very good chance you could be pulling away from your company, not standing it up and moving.
Right. So what do you think the most common misconceptions are that business owners have about marketing?
I think the biggest is people don't realize how much of a revenue driver marketing can be. I think a lot of people look at it as a support staff and a support team. I also, and in a way, marketing, like every single colleague around you, they're all support. You all have to support one another. But some people, when you look at the check the boxes, oftentimes we land in the support side and not the driver's side. If done well and done the right way, it's absolutely a revenue driver. And again, it goes back to taking your data, finding out what the story is that it tells, and making sure that you build a strategy, that you plug in tactics that make sense.
What makes that message resonate with your customers or your potential customers? How do you, I guess it's knowing what they want?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to what we just talked about, curiosity. If you walk in and you're like, I got it all figured out, I know what you need, well, do you? Even if you did 5 minutes ago, maybe something has changed. I always tell people that the person, even the same person that you spoke to yesterday could be a different person now. For example, I used to work in financial institutions. Julie, I could talk to you and you could be like, I am here for a mortgage. And so then the next day I see you and I'm like, Julie's here for the mortgage, let's do it. And you're like, I lost my job and I need to refinance what I've got. So you always have to be curious in every moment to make sure you really are connecting with people.
Because the world is changing. And everybody's situation today is more than ever. It's changing on a daily basis. We are definitely living in a dynamic kind of world.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Well, so what makes one message resonate and another, and grab people's attention versus falling flat and not getting the attention?
I think that's a really important question for the fact that I think a lot of times, not everyone, but you'll hear a lot of people say, I want this video to go viral or how do I beat the algorithm? I think you're focusing on the wrong areas. Who doesn't want to beat the algorithm? Who doesn't want to go viral? But really, if you kind of back the bus up and go to the very basics of just connecting people and making sure that you are genuine in your assertions and when you're talking to them and you're giving them, you're coming up with the questions you want to ask them, make sure you're asking the right questions. People really appreciate being seen and heard. And that is really, in all realms and walks of life, that is so important. Marketing and communication is no different. And I think when you start at that basic level, the rest will work itself out. Heck, oh my gosh, the algorithm changes, I think, every 1.5 seconds.
I was going to say, don't even say every day because it's quicker than that.
Yes, exactly. Don't waste the time. Just keep doing what you're doing. Be consistent with that message. Make sure it's genuine, and it's going to hook. I just think, I think it's almost like when you think of somebody who says, I want to move up in my career and I want this title, I want that title. Okay, but do the job you have really well, and then that will happen. So build your message, build it well, spend all of your time there at the beginning. I am really bad at cliches. So what I should do is say I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it.
Give me that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Throw it at me. I got you.
It's that whole quote where, Abraham Lincoln says, if you got 6 hours, take 4 hours to prepare before you actually, sharpening the axe before you chop down the tree.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's the gist. And at the end of the day, that's what you really want to do. Take that time to build that really strong foundation, because if you're launching off of a weak foundation, the whole house of cards could fall.
Sure.
So.
Well, but also target audiences. How do you define that target audience? And then, not every small business, and actually one starting out, really can't typically afford to hire a consultant. So how do you define that target audience and figure out how best to reach them?
I think the best way to do that is those customer discoveries. Everyone hears, you could talk lingo all day, like beat the algorithm and do your customer discoveries and make sure you're going viral and blah, blah, blah. Customer discoveries are nothing other than just remaining curious. Sit down for a moment. Use AI if you need to. Use it as your teammate if you don't have a lot of cash money on you to ask someone to come in and just be like, go back and forth. I've done that. Hey, chat. Hey, Claude. Hey, whoever. This is what I'm thinking. What do you think? Search the web. Pull it all in and tell me what you're finding out there. Start working on those strategies. Build out your questions. And then, honestly, just start asking people if you can talk to them. Sometimes you might find a sale in there as well. Customer discovery could often be that first step to converting a client.
Right.
But, even if they're not directly going to convert, all of that knowledge and all of that foundational work you're doing is going to convert to a client.
Yes, somewhere it is, yeah. Marketing versus sales. Give us that definition. And I would even add marketing versus advertising, because I think there's a different animal as well.
Well, and in my brain, I always think of marketing and communication as one bucket.
Exactly.
And then advertising is a type of that. Really, and everyone's everyone's going to answer this differently, and you could tweak it really any way you want. The way my brain works is everyone communicates in the world. You must communicate. So I always put that as the umbrella. And then how are you going to communicate? And then there are different categories under communication, marketing being a big part of it. And then under marketing, you've got sales, and you've got your paid advertising, and you've got your public relations, and you could go down the whole list of different marketing tactics.
Right.
But at the end of the day, a lot of times I'll tell people that, marketing is asking someone if they'll go on a date, and branding is when they said yes. That's why they say yes. And so it's a really important aspect. I did not come up with that. It's been out there forever, but it's a really,
I like it.
Yeah, it's a really good phrase, and it works. So when you say specifically, what's the difference between marketing and what's the difference between sales? I would tell you marketing is really the nucleus, the center, or even if you want to say it's a Venn diagram, it lays over top of every department.
Okay.
And I say that in an enterprise level company. So when you're talking about a smaller company, you may not have an accounting department, a finance department, but kind of think about how are you communicating to each one of those. When I help a company with marketing, at the end of the day, everyone wants growth. But how do you get to that growth? Some people immediately need sales help. So I really lean heavy in sales. Some people are like, you know what, we're really looking at getting a patent coming up, in the next couple of years. So what we really need is let's hire a rock star engineer, or let's hire this spectacular, skilled, insert whoever.
Right.
And then it's going to be more working with HR. So, marketing definitely is going to build out
Goes everywhere.
campaigns for all of those different departments to drive that next best step to eventually get you to that growth.
When a small business is trying to promote themselves, what are the most common mistakes that they make?
Not being themselves is what I would say. And I actually would tell you that from being an entrepreneur myself. Even, what do they say? Like the cobbler has no shoes.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Here I am again hitting those
Yes,
metaphors.
No, I am the queen of it, so
you can keep me on track.
I'm right there, yeah.
But it's the same thing. I help everyone else with their marketing, and oftentimes for me, and again, I'm marketing, which to get a little lingo-y, and I hate to do this, but it's more top of funnel, attracting people to you. Then you pull them in the funnel, and then you get more to sales to make the conversion. I really am more of a marketer. I'm not a salesperson. Like closing the deal is not something that I do a lot of. And I find that just that top level marketing is where you've got to really focus, because you might know how to do sales, but if you don't know how to pull people in and even catch their attention, that's a really important thing. And for me, I always joke that I was the most overly assessed human being out there. I've taken the Colby A, the Myers-Briggs, the DISC assessment, Clifton Strengths.
Are they all different?
No.
Okay, good.
They are not.
Then you're authentic.
Yes, there
That's
you
a
go.
good thing.
There you go. Well, and what's really funny is two of the things keep coming back is, depending if they call it visionary or futuristic, that's kind of one of my high ones. But a motivator that came back through the DISC assessment is altruism. Okay, so this is my story about how making sure you are true to yourself. I legit was like, really? Altruism? Like, great if I'm running for Miss America, but I need to pay my mortgage.
Help with the biz. I got to be able to pay the bills. Yep.
Right. This is a capitalistic nation. How do I do this?
Sure.
And so, the first year of me being in business, I definitely got clients and I did the thing. And once I was in, I was fine. But it was that sales side of it that was really hard. And one day I just thought, why do I feel like I have to be slick and be like, hey, big guy, I like your tie? It's just not me.
You. Yeah, right.
And one day I thought about it and I'm like, use the altruism to be, like, to own who you are. And I thought, I was kind of, the example is if there's a fish flopping out of water and I can help it, I've got an opposable thumb. I can go say, hey, here, let me throw you back in. So now I look at sales really almost not like sales, but like, hey, I can do that. I can do the thing.
Right.
Do you need my, not everyone's going to need my help, but if they do, I can help them. Why would I not at least offer? And then you just got to be ready for them to say yes or no, and there's nothing personal about it. Sometimes it's just not a fit at that moment. But,
sure.
Long way around to be honest and true to yourself. I think that really is important, especially for small business owners.
How do you think a business can tell if the marketing's working? Is it a function of how many times the phone's ringing, or how many customers are getting, or is there anything a little bit?
I think a lot of times you'll know it's working when the message you're putting out finds its way back to you.
Okay.
Do you ever think of that game Telephone? I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yes, absolutely.
And I remember like third grade, you're like here at the front of the, and it goes through all of the rows, and by the end they say something that was not at all.
Totally. It wasn't even a word, probably the same.
Yeah, it doesn't even make a sense.
Sure.
Yeah. And I tell people that a lot. Make sure that this goes, when I told you simple, genuine, and consistent. Those are the three pillars of just a really solid foundation. This goes to this goes to all of those. If it's not simple, people aren't going to remember it. Do not try and speak over anyone's heads. And it's not being smart or dumbing it down. Back in my broadcast journalism days, we would do stories on journalism, and on like medical stuff, and we'd do stuff on legal. Everyone would probably agree that you have a lot of education to become an attorney as well as a doctor. But if they talk lingo to each other, it just doesn't make sense.
Right.
So simplify it.
Sure.
And then be consistent. Make sure you're saying it again and again and again. If I talk to you one way and I come talk to you guys this way, but then it gets jumbled and people are like, I don't know who she is. So that is really that whole genuine, simple, and consistent.
That's great. Those are great tips. Well, so what are ways that a beginner can track their marketing and their performance and figure out? I mean,
I love that you asked.
That's that's a tough one.
It is, but it goes back to being simple. I really do live this.
Okay.
Especially if you're a small business owner and you're trying to be your own accountant and trying to figure out your financial forecast and trying to figure out, all the different departments are here in your head. Just simplify it and start with the things that are free. LinkedIn, all the social media, for example, if you're going down that path. And I would recommend social media just because that's a great way to network if you're not right in front of somebody.
Right.
Because we can't be in front of everybody. We're only one person. But look at your analytics. They'll tell you who's paying attention. Men, women, what age group, what demographic, and what geographic area.
Right.
I mean, start there. Start easy.
How often should you be revisiting your strategy besides daily?
I think a great time is when you're tracking your data and if your trend lines are starting to either flatten out or, God forbid, take a big dip, you need to look at
something's not working.
Start reassessing.
Yeah. You've looked at a lot of businesses. What do you see, what habits do you see that separate the ones that are taking off and doing well to the ones that are maybe more stagnant?
I think that I find from a strategy standpoint, the ones who understand the need for a strategist. Sometimes I'll have someone like a potential client talk with me and say, if I bring you in, are you going to build a website? Well, I can get someone. I'm not an agency, so I don't have someone. I am truly a fractional CMO.
Yeah.
But I work.
You have contacts.
Yes. I always call it depth on my bench, which is really just an Excel sheet, but it sounds cooler to say depth on my bench. But I have a bunch of people, and people are like, well, if you're not building the website or if you're not doing the graphic design, what are you doing? And so then people, unfortunately, kind of click back into tactical mode. And that throwing spaghetti at the wall is only going to work so long before you have someone that can come in and tie it all together.
Right.
And that, I think, even if you can't hire a fractional CMO, and that's one of the reasons I wrote my book, to be honest.
Sure. Tips.
Because if you can't afford me as a fractional, I'm not my own ICP, my ideal client profile. I'm not my own. So
yes.
Buy my book for $15. You know what I mean? Or
sure.
talk to a marketer.
Yeah.
Call me. I'm not going to say that. Everyone's going to call. Just kidding. But I do coffee with people all the time.
Yeah.
Like just to do it, because I think it's fun to help people out. And,
sure.
If it turns into a conversion, great. But if not, maybe it just elevated someone's game a little bit.
And if they're feeling overwhelmed, go get your book.
Is
that the answer?
Yeah.
Is that where they should start?
My book. Brand Voice, people plus data to drive results. But it does help. It definitely has. I've had a lot of people give me feedback that they are underlining it and writing notes in the corner and dog-earing it. And I was really surprised by that. I didn't think of it as like a workbook, but I love hearing that.
Well, I think resources, obviously, is a good play. I mean,
100%.
It's not your expertise, so find some information that gives you an extra level of knowledge. So, regardless of trends, what is a foundational marketing philosophy that sticks, no matter what? Whether it's social media, whether it's back in the days of the standing out on the street with a sign, what's something that never changes?
Remaining curious. Curiosity has so many advantages to it. And curiosity will help you connect with people. And at the end of the day, it's all about people.
I like that. And that's not what I don't think I would have expected to come out of your mouth. But I think
what
that's good. I don't know. I'm not sure. But that knowing your client, knowing yourself, so that you are what you present, but then also knowing the people that you're trying to reach, so that you can figure out that niche. That's perfect. That is perfect. One piece of advice, final words to a business owner.
At the end of the day,
just starting to figure out what marketing is.
Use AI. It's out there.
Okay.
Use AI for the things that you need to replicate, automate, all of those good things. It really can help you so that you can focus on the human side. The things that AI cannot do.
Right.
And it's not too hard to figure that out. Sit down and be like, what does not need a human touch point to it, and get it going on AI. And then you can free up your time to really start making those connections with people.
Because that makes a difference.
Yeah, it's never going to end. At the end of the day, people connecting is what it's all about.
Yeah. And that's so great. That's a great reminder, because we're getting inundated with AI's taking over the world. AI's going to eliminate all these jobs. AI's going to do this and that. It can never take away that personal touch.
Right. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah,
Great
thank you.
stuff.
That was fun.
So that is all for this episode of Business and Beyond. Thank you for listening. And Becky, thank you for joining us. Great information. You've helped a bunch of businesses today. If you've enjoyed this conversation, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to keep this conversation going, so make sure to connect with us on social media and share your ideas for future topics or guests. And please visit us online at bbb.org. And until next time, keep building with integrity, leading with trust, and taking your business beyond expectations. The BBB way.